It's great to have your company here on Business Now. Well, the Prime Minister was in Perth today, and though he spoke again about intergenerational fairness being addressed in the budget, nothing specific was spelled out. No capital gains tax changes, nothing really about negative gearing.
Today I announced that our government is committing $45 million in our budget to speed up and simplify approvals into a single-touch process. This will fast-track new energy, housing and resources projects by combining federal and state approvals, effectively removing an entire layer of bureaucracy from the process. If the state government signs one of our new bilateral approval agreements, they will be empowered to conduct assessments and approvals on the Commonwealth's behalf. So instead of a two-stage, two-track process with all of the cost delays and doubling up that occurs, this will be a one-step process with one clearer, faster yes or no.
And you see, that is a genuine productivity improvement the Prime Minister's talking about there, to make approvals faster, which stops projects going elsewhere. But with all the talk about ambitious tax reform in the budget and about addressing fairness, the question is whether this is a tax grab, changing capital gains tax, changing negative gearing perhaps. To bring in and explain this, Liam Dillon is an economist at the Committee for Economic Development who joins me now. Liam, many thanks for your time. I see the Commonwealth Bank late this afternoon is talking that it believes that negative gearing gone, that it believes the 50% discount rate on capital gains tax is gone. What's your own sense on that? Do you get any insight as to whether you believe these changes are going to be made?
Well, certainly, Ross, the focus on intergenerational equity in the Prime Minister's speech today, as well as the Treasurer's previous remarks, suggests that these policies are definitely up for consideration. And with focus on those policies and where the benefits are really accruing, a lot of Australians are asking, in an environment where they're being asked to make sacrifices in the name of fiscal sustainability, how appropriate those policies are and whether we've got the right mix. So I think that they're definitely on the table, and given their size, they need to be.
OK, so the question is whether this is a social welfare reform or whether it's a genuine tax reform. That's the issue here, isn't it? Because lots of people who currently own homes, who might be in their 40s or 50s, would actually say, well, actually, it wasn't that easy for me to get a deposit and to buy a home either, just as it's probably not for our kids today.
Yeah, of course. I think that one thing that really is binding a lot of people together is that they can understand just how difficult this process is. And I think we don't want to be in a situation where that process that's always been challenging is only getting increasingly challenging. So tax changes are part of the mix that we need to consider as we evaluate just how easy and accessible and affordable housing is, because that's really critical to productivity overall, the extent to which people can be near the jobs that make the best use of their skills and contribute to the economy. So it's part of a broader conversation, and tax is one lever, but regulation is another one as well. So we can't look at these things in isolation, but certainly tax is a powerful lever and it does have intergenerational aspects to it.
OK, going back into the early 1980s, Paul Keating famously changed negative gearing, got rid of it. And it was really only 9 months later it was reintroduced because it had actually caused a plunge in the supply of new homes being built. That'd be the worst thing, given that we've right now got a significant increase in migration coming to this nation. We need more housing.
Yeah, absolutely. The supply of housing is a critical issue, and it's one of the really fundamental areas that needs to be addressed. Part of that will be through the taxation changes. One of the issues, I suppose, that we've seen recently, though, is that the distribution of new loans going towards housing has skewed more to the investor class. And where we see those new loans going is really in established homes. So it's not really contributing under the current tax settings to building new homes, which is what we need. So that's why it's one important part of the mix that we do need to consider. But on top of that, and going to your previous point, that states have a role to play, we need to think about the regulation that we can pull on here to support the increase in housing supply. And part of that looks at sort of the zoning arrangements that we have. Some research that we've done suggests that loosening some of those restrictions could contribute as much as 1 million new houses entering to the market. So it really needs to be a broad mix of responses by governments at all levels to help address this challenging issue of housing supply.
I've literally only got 15 seconds left, Liam, but your sense is that if there are changes to negative gearing, it would actually be aimed towards new homes rather than existing homes.
That's certainly one of the options that's on the table. I think the thing that's important to say here is that any policy needs to be carefully designed and evaluated. It goes to the fairness piece. We need to make sure that any policy we have is achieving its objective. And so if we do introduce those new changes, we need to make sure it's supporting those objectives of increasing supply.
I'll tell you what, good to have you on the program. Liam Dillon, economist at the Committee for Economic Development in Australia.